All right. A warm welcome to all our participants joining from different corners of the world. My name is Nico Richter. I am manager at Wavestone Germany and your moderator for today's webinar. I will provide you now with some organizational topics. We will record the webinar and use it for advertising purposes. You can therefore switch off your camera if you want. We will also make the names of each participant unrecognizable afterwards. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat and we will answer them in the Q&A session together with you. Pictures that will be shown in the webinar are created by Microsoft Copilot on basis of DALL-E 3 technology. We also created some videos for your entertainment. Please be aware that due to different reasons, such as networking problems, the videos could judder a little bit. We will start today with a short introduction of AI, the webinar panelists, and Wavestone. In our second part today, we focus on challenges and solution approaches with AI about customer experience as well as use case feasibility in that context. We've also integrated a short query which may give you an overview of where AI is adding the most value. In our third part, around 30 minutes, we will guide you into our breakout rooms, where exciting and practical use cases will be presented by our experts. We have 3 breakout rooms with the same presentation in French, English, and German. You will be automatically guided into each breakout session based on the language you selected in the registration form. In the fourth part, we will summarize the content presented. And on the last point, like in the Q&A session, we will have fruitful conversation session where we'll answer your questions from the chat. I now want to hand over to our first special guest, Iwa, our internal AI avatar of Wavestone,
J'ai un webinaire tout
which
en
is
anglais.
used for internal
Wow.
topics.
Hello, guten Tag, et bonjour to our fabulous
J'arrive à
guests from
suivre,
all
mais
over the world. For example, from Australia and Austria, France, Germany, the United States, and UK. Thank you for joining us today for what promises to be an electrifying webinar on AI solutions across various industries. I'm Aiwa, your friendly AI facilitator, and I'm thrilled to welcome you here today. You might even recognize me from several airports around the world where I help travelers to find their way. Yes, I'm quite a globetrotter AI. Over the next hour, we'll embark on an exciting journey exploring how you can successfully employ AI to tackle challenges and drive innovation in the rapidly evolving world of your customers with real-world use cases. We encourage you to engage with us throughout the session. Feel free to ask questions, share your thoughts, and let's make this a lively and interactive experience. We're here to learn and grow together. So, without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Please welcome your hosts. Hello, good.
Thank you. Thank you, Iwa. As I will introduce, I will now hand over to our panelists, starting with Shadi Antouche. Welcome, Shadi.
Thank you, Nico. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. So I'm Shadi. I'm based in Paris, France, and I head our overall AI initiatives at Wavestone globally.
And hi, I'm Cecilia Edwards. I'm located in our Dallas office in the United States. I'm one of the leaders in our digital and AI transformation practice, and I lead our Gen AI strategy work here in the United States.
Hi, and my name is Ute Niendorf. I'm partner in our Germany office based in Hamburg, and I'm leading the digital customer practice in DACH, Germany, Austria, Switzerland.
So we first wanted to start by saying a few words about Wavestone and who we are today. Wavestone is obviously a global consulting firm that has a pretty broad portfolio of services in many industries. We now have a global presence, as you might have heard, in the United States, in the United Kingdom, all over Europe, especially in France, in Germany, in Austria, in Switzerland, Belgium, Luxembourg, in North Africa, and then also in Asia with our Hong Kong and Singapore offices. That represents today a bit more than 5,500 employees. We're getting towards the 6,000 employees, which puts us actually in the top 20 consulting firms in the world. We are soon reaching the $1 billion landmark in terms of annual revenue. And one important point to us about Wavestone's position in the market is that we remain an independent company, independent from a financial perspective. The majority of our shares, because we're stock listed, still belong to the founders and senior management of the company, and also independent of any, I would say, solution provider or vendor in the market. In terms of data and AI, Wavestone is really in a sweet spot between business and technology. Our positioning is typically to have your traditional data and AI management consulting capabilities that go from data and AI strategy to pure data science and analytics, including data engineering, data management, data visualization, and obviously artificial intelligence. That's something we started over 10 years ago, so we have a pretty strong track record in terms of machine learning, computer vision, deep learning, and obviously we've embraced that generative AI trend and hot topic. We also work a lot on all the underlying platforms, architecture, and obviously on all the governance and management that surround the whole data topic. But really the differentiator Wavestone has is our ability to blend those pure data and AI, I want to say technological skills, with our business skills, whether they are in specific business domains, when we're talking about manufacturing, energy, utilities, transportation, financial services, you name it. We are able to bring together our technical experts and our business experts, and we truly believe that this is how this whole AI revolution is actually going to happen, by mixing those skills. That brings us to address the topic with blended teams between technical experts and business experts. And I think today's webinar is a perfect demonstration of this, with the topic of customer journey using artificial intelligence. And just to finish with, we also work quite a lot on everything around AI risk, including cybersecurity, and on everything AI is going to change in the new ways of working, how it transforms not only the workplace, but the way people interact, people work, and probably tomorrow, the way people live. That represents a few hundreds people within Wavestone. As I said, a mix of business experts, technical experts, data scientists, core data scientists, I would say, and that's every year hundreds and hundreds of projects that we lead at Wavestone for our clients globally. So that was a very short intro on what we do on AI and data. And without further ado, I think we can move on to the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Shadi, for your introduction. I will now provide you with some detailed information about today's participants. We have received registration from 4 continents and 10 different time zones, which is amazing. As you can see in the graph, we have a broad range of industries that are here today in this webinar. We have around 25% of participants from the insurance industry, 16 from IT, 11 from other industries and travel, transport and logistics, 9% from banking, 8% from energy, 7% from lifestyle luxury goods, 5% from industrial and construction, 4% from pharma and health, 2% from consumer and products, and we also have 1% from automotive and 1% from public sector. I will now hand over to Uta Niendorf, who will start with the various challenges organizations are faced with.
Yes, thank you, Nico, and thank you, Charlie, for the introduction. So I'm so excited that there are so many of you from all different industries and sectors. So you have to bear with us that we won't go into any details, industry specific or sector specific, but I think there are some global challenges that all industries face, and especially when it comes to creating, the perfect experience for your customers. And it's no new concept, but obviously it has a new meaning when we look at it in the context of AI. And that is basically starting with the attention. So how can we actually attract the right customers, get their attention in a world that is full of information, full of different attractions? How can we make sure that they are actually interested in your particular product or service? The second is always, how can we better understand our clients, right? How can we make sure that whatever data we have, what we know about their preferences, when it comes to certain products, their needs, how can that be actually, channeled, funneled in a way that is attractive for them then with regards to your products and services. And last but not least, how can we make sure that this excitement lasts throughout the entire customer journey and might even lead to further customer demands that could be represented in recommendations, in client satisfaction, in purchasing of different services and products from you as a preferred provider. So I guess that is some very general statements that we see across all industries and sectors. And I think we all agree that AI can help us a lot to help generate attention, understanding, and excitement. And we're going to deep dive a bit more into that right now. So the integration of AI solutions into a customer journey, in our opinion, is a great tool to enhance customer experience, generate value. Now, what we're obviously not doing in that webinar is, going into separate and detailed customer journeys for all these different industries. But what you can see here is obviously a standardized value chain that is also pretty typical of any kind of business, and also the way we have structured it today, because in our experience, it's very much either focused on growth cases such as brand, marketing, product, and sales, or maybe enhancing the efficiency and customer experience in areas such as after-sales services, customer loyalty that we here call operations and customer loyalty. Just to give you an idea on how today we have structured and sorted the different real-time use cases that we're going to present today. So this is the overview. Obviously, we are fully aware that behind that, there's much more that you have to do in your respective organizations, right? That are not only directly customer facing and in regards to the customer journey and the touch points that you might have with your individual customers. We are fully aware that there's a lot of potential for AI use cases behind the curtains, basically, when it comes to customer value analysis that you want to do in marketing, or enhancing your product experience that is then put to the customer touch point, helping you better generate sales, the sales funnel and all that. So you could find a lot of examples throughout your entire organization. We're not going to emphasize that here today, but what is really important for us to point out is that there are some foundational topics. So some parts that are really relevant with independent of the individual use case you might want to put into practice. And we're going to mention some here, and I think Cecilia is going to give you more insights on that in a second. But obviously, we're fully aware you're all operating in some kind of regulatory framework and environment, and you have to be compliant. We're fully aware that there's tons of data across any organization that needs to be managed, and AI needs to be very well integrated into that. We know that there are already parts of automation in place that are not necessarily always enhanced by AI, but could just be automated processes that are super relevant in order to create more efficiency across your organization. But again, AI can help in that. And then last but not least, the last thing I wanted to mention is everything related to data protection and compliance. We know very well, because as Charlie was saying, a lot of our projects also deal with that part, which is very important when it comes to implementing AI use cases. But important is here as a takeaway, we strongly believe AI can support you in these activities. And that is the main message here.
All right. Thank you, Uta, for also describing how important the customer journey is also for AI. We have now prepared a live poll with the question, where do you see AI adding the most impact in your value chain? You're now able to answer our live poll in this session. You should see it on your screen, or please open the link provided in the chat and answer the questions. Be aware that you may not be able to participate in the poll as your internal IT policy restrictions, or maybe your adjustments doesn't allow to interact with our tool, but you can type in your answer in the chat. Take your time. We will have around 40 seconds until I will share the final results. While you are participating, I will share some interesting facts about AI. So did you know that MIT researchers have identified a powerful new antibiotic compound? In laboratory tests, the drug killed many of the world's most problematic disease-causing bacteria, including some strains that are resistant to all known antibiotics. So I think this is something very interesting because the solution behind it is an AI computer model, which can screen more than 100 million chemical compounds in a matter of days. And it's designed to pick out potential antibiotics that kill bacteria using different mechanics than those of existing drugs. So it's very helpful for the future. I can also quote Sam Altman from OpenAI. He said, it's possible that we will have super intelligence in a few thousand days. It may take longer, but he's confident that we will get there. If you are more interested, you can Google it and then find an essay which is labeled The Intelligence Age. All right. I will now share the results. We have the results with operations leading with 49%. We have marketing on the second place with 22%. On the third place is sales with 16%. And then we have also customer loyalty with 8% and product with 5%. Thank you for participating. I now hand over to our panelist, Cecilia Edwards, who will tell us more about use case feasibility.
Thanks. In a moment, we're going to break you out into groups where we're going to share with you some use cases that are already in production in a few organizations. And it's really exciting to see that these use cases are there, but we have to remember that generative AI has come on the scene relatively quickly. It is accelerated in pace over the last 2 years after the release of ChatGPT. That means that not all of the work that typically happens during a technology adoption phase by early adopters has been completed yet, meaning use cases are still being proven up. So and there's foundational work that needs to be done. Uta mentioned a number of the foundational things that have to happen. Therefore, just because a use case has been adopted in one organization does not necessarily mean that you are ready to adopt it. And so one of the things that we say, whether or not the use cases that we're going to share with you today or any other use cases that you identify, one of the things that's very important is for you to look at the feasibility, meaning, is my organization ready to adopt this use case? And is the use case appropriate for my organization? And there are 5 things we like to have you look at. The first one of those is the suitability of the problem for Gen AI. Every use case that comes up does not necessarily require Gen AI in order to solve it. Some use cases need machine learning, some are automation, some are just plain reporting. So when you actually, in addition to thinking about whether Gen AI is the right solution, once you've decided that it is, there are a few other considerations that you need to look at as well. Things like, are the inputs well defined? Is there a specific output that you need, and has the structure of that been determined? Does the problem require a generative solution? I touched base on that a little bit. And then is the data available to support it? Those are some of the questions that you should ask yourself to determine whether or not the idea that you have is suitable not only for for generative AI, but for your organization. Second, you should determine whether or not there are ethical concerns for responsibly implementing the use case. Uta already mentioned things like regulatory. That's important, but you also need to check for the risk of bias that might be implicit in the data sets that you've used to train your AI models. And you need to determine whether or not you can avoid that. You obviously need to check with compliance issues. And I know that there are the AI regulatory issues in the EU, but there are also those who are in regulated industries, and the use case for that needs to comply with your industry regulations as well. You need to determine the potential for misuse and the steps that you can put in place to mitigate them. And then obviously the cybersecurity and data privacy concerns that both Uta and Chatty address fall into this category as well. And then we have to remember that not everything that can be done should be done. It's really a focus on only those things that create business value. You may have heard of the Air Canada incident last year where a passenger used AI and their AI supported chatbot to inquiry about bereavement fares as he made last minute plans to attend his grandmother's funeral. The bot informed him that he could receive a reimbursement within 90 days. And so after he submitted the request for refund, he was told that the information he received was incorrect and that he was not eligible for a refund. Well, both he and Air Canada ended up in court to settle the matter, and the passenger won. So Air Canada had a use case, but it provided no real value since their website already provided a link to the correct bereavement policy. The whole thing could have been avoided. So the lesson is really to ensure that there is adequate business value from the use case and not just kind of technical pleasure. We absolutely must look at the technical feasibility. This includes things like infrastructure, the skills required, the complexity of the model, and many other technical things. Because this is not really a technical webinar, I won't go into some of the details, but check with your IT departments to ensure that what you're doing actually can be supported technically within the architecture of your organization. And finally, you need to have it look at whether or not your organization has the willingness to change. Implementing technologies is not the end goal. The end goal is using the technologies in order to transform your business. So if you don't have the willingness to change, the ability to execute the change management that is necessary, changes in processes, changes in approaches, etc., then everything else that we've discussed is really pointless. Together, a look at these 5 dimensions really provides a good overview and, as needed, an actionable roadmap. So if you find that as you ask yourself these sets of questions, there are things where you are not quite ready, that gives you the information necessary to put in your roadmap that will enable you to drive towards successful execution of those targeted use cases. So now we're going to send you into the breakout sessions. Just a little reminder, as Nico mentioned earlier, you should have already been identified in terms of which breakout session you will go into, the French, English, or German. It's the same content in all of those breakout sessions. You'll automatically be sent. But however, if you have any issues during that breakout session, feel free to jump back into the main room. Someone will be here to answer any questions that you have. During the session, you feel free to unmute yourself or turn on your camera if you'd like. We will still be recording, but just to let you know, feel free to do that if you would like to. And then at the end of the breakout session, you'll automatically be returned to this main room for our Q&A. So with that, enjoy your breakouts.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the breakout session, where we will talk through a few of these exciting use cases in a bit more detail. My name is Brad Fraser, and I'm a senior consultant with Wavestone. I've spent the last year and a half working with a global pharmaceutical company to identify and implement high-value generative AI use cases across the enterprise.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ayo Liemi. I am a consultant at the Wavestone's Dallas office within the United States. My experience spans across our outsourcing, vendor management, cybersecurity, project management, and value realization topics. I'm very excited to collaborate with all of you and bring insights from our diverse industry expertise today.
So as discussed earlier in the webinar, Wavestone has worked on a wide variety of use cases across the entire value chain and across industries. During this breakout session, we'll be walking you through 4 use cases that span the entire value chain and serve a variety of customers and needs. We'll start out in the world of sports with an LLM for enhanced interaction with fans, then dive into an AI-enhanced customer satisfaction dashboard that was created for an energy company. We'll then look at an AI-supported service that provides customer product recommendations, and finally wrap up the session with a use case on using AI to predict customer preferences for an automotive manufacturer. If time allows at the end, we'll also review a use case on using AI to help detect fraud in the banking industry. We'll be offering the opportunity for questions and answers back in the main room at the end of the webinar, so we ask that you please hold any questions until then. So with that, let's begin. Our first use case is a chatbot developed for the OSC Tigers. The Tigers are an American football team located in northwestern Germany. As they are what's called the fourth league, they don't get much public attention and need to build out their market. An additional challenge is that American football is not well known in Germany, especially the fourth league. For this reason, the Tigers have been looking for a solution to better interact and attract fans. The chatbot POC was one part of the solution. It was designed and implemented as a multi-language chatbot capable of answering questions on various topics related to football in general and the Tigers specifically. And for the techies out there, the solution has been developed by using a structured crisp DM approach and the implementation of retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, in Azure AI Search, together with an LLM and prompt engineering. The Tigers are not the only team that uses a chatbot. FC Barcelona has also implemented a similar tool with success. The usage of this type of tool is a very effective way to increase interactions with fans. In the following video, we'll show you some of the most important features of the chatbot. We prepared this demo as a video to avoid any unpredictable issues during this session, which always seems to happen when you do something live. If you wish, you can also try it out yourself on the website. All right, let's take a look at the demo video. The page starts in German with a self-introduction from POC. POC welcomes the user as the chatbot of the Tigers and offers various options for interacting with it. As the intro is in German, we'll first ask to answer our questions in English. Let's start with a simple question about the name POC. The answer is given in English as requested, and we have our first response. POC is the nickname of a Tiger legend, which now makes him a famous AI tool. POC not only provides the user with the brief background information, it also gives more details about the person behind the name, as you can read on the screen. The second question is about the next game and where to buy tickets. Again, we get an immediate and accurate answer that would be helpful to the user without having to spend time searching the website for this information. Additionally, the questions asked can be logged, and as a result, they can be used for evaluation and analysis. It's also interesting to see which promotional items are most important which can be determined based on the number of questions received in comparison to other topics. The tool can also answer questions about football rules. For an example, what is an interception? The tool, again, gives an immediate and accurate answer. As already mentioned, POC is a multilingual tool. It is also able to answer questions in French or Spanish, for example. As you can see, the video will now continue the questions in French and ask again for the definition of an interception. This short video gives a good idea of the capabilities of an LLM chatbot. Chatbots like this can easily be customized to be used in a different context and for a variety of other customers as well. They can really serve any use case where you need to make a large amount of information easily accessible to the user, either internally or externally facing. Guardrails can also be implemented as well to make sure that the chatbot only responds to relevant topics. Jumping ahead here, 1 second. The next use case brings us to a very different industry, but also with a strong focus on customers. As the aim in the first use case was to attract more customers, we now want to measure customer satisfaction. The client here is a French company called Engie. Engie is an energy supply company and has around 20 million customers in France, along with offering services in other European countries as well. Engie is very interested in customer satisfaction, and for this reason, they ask customers after each interaction to take part in a survey. Engie receives over 10,000 data records each day with these surveys, which includes both structured and unstructured data. To find the right solution, we started with the identification of the right AI tool. Currently, a fully industrialized pipeline is running, and to this end, we have implemented a model for classification and a model for tonality. A solution like this would be applicable for any company with a high customer contact frequency and dependence on customer satisfaction. All right, let's dive into some more insights about the tool and how it works for the customer. Let's start with a bit more background information for a better understanding. As I said, Engie is very interested in customer satisfaction, and so they want to monitor this with KPIs like the NPS, or Net Promoter Score. The survey consists of structured data like ratings of predefined criteria and graduated scaling, and at the end of the survey, the customers could add further remarks in a text box. This free text option is used by around 20% of the participating customers. This unstructured information has been one weak point of the existing tool, as it could not use and evaluate this customer feedback. Another advantage of this solution is that it's accessible to several departments and several hundred users in the company. In general, the AI dashboard offers the possibility to get an overview of positive and negative feedback with a focus on the customer verbatim. And just a quick note about what's on the screen. This is not the original dashboard, as we must ensure that no sensitive data will be published and we are compliant with data privacy laws. The dashboard allows the user to filter 4 main KPIs and different selections. With the lowest amount of filters, all customer verbatim interactions can be perceived in detail, which is not shown here. You also have the option to filter the customer's comments for specific information. When we look a little deeper, the dashboard gives a very good overview of the general KPI numbers, like the amount of feedback, including the verbatim feedback, Net Promoter Score, satisfaction rate, and customer effort score, which represents how easy it was for the customer to get an answer. Also, below every KPI is the trend over the last 6 months. The dashboard pictured is a screenshot of the main page with lots of KPIs. It is important to mention that there are no static graphs. The user can get more information about the KPI or the information behind it by clicking on the graphics. You can also get more details about special departments or call centers. The solution offers many more functions to the users than we can show here, such as using correlation analyses and creating developments over defined timelines. One more important feature we have integrated into this solution is an alert system. The function creates an alert to the call center if the satisfaction rating is too low, Further, you can see the type of feedback and differentiate between incoming call, messaging services by NG, or other customer contact points with NG. To summarize, together with NG, we have created a very powerful tool to monitor customer satisfaction. We achieved a global accuracy of 80% and up to 99% for the most represented categories. The aim is to raise the overall global accuracy up to 85 or 90%. And now I'll hand it over to Ayo to talk through the remaining use cases.
Thanks, Brad. Could flip over to the next slide. To the intensity of sports, sweat, and energy, we now shift over to the world of luxury and beauty. You've probably heard of Lancôme before. As part of L'Oreal, Lancôme produces and sells beauty products, especially for women. Together with L'Oreal, we developed a AI-powered diagnostic solution to personalize and enhance product recommendations for its various beauty brands. The challenge was to create a solution that offers personalized diagnostics for customers, helping them discover the products best suited for their needs. To simplify, our approach focused on refining the customer beauty profiles within the CRM. We combine both online and in-store experiences, collecting and analyzing data to provide useful insights. This process typically starts at the point of sale, where the skin screening equipment is available. How does it work? Let's take a quick look at the official commercial for Lancôme.
For the first time, project your future self with Skin Screen Projective Aging. Unlock the boundaries of skin analysis. Discover external stresses' impact on 10 clinical signs of skin aging. Powered by deep learning algorithms to stay ahead of tomorrow's changes with our most efficient skincare solution, Lancôme Skin Screen.
That's a great example of how smart AI solutions can be. But behind the scenes, we face several challenges. This included aligning use cases with brand-specific needs, measuring the impact of beauty tech on sales, and setting up a system to track key performance indicators. It was also crucial to train the AI model to deliver accurate data for different facial zones. To address these, we first identified the needs of each brand. Then, we enhanced customer beauty profiles in the CRM by incorporating both online and in-store data. Lastly, we defined the structure, roles, and processes for support services. We didn't do this alone. Scientists, along with hardware and software providers like those for the screening devices, were all key collaborators. The results? Our client achieved several measurable outcomes. Attracted new and diverse customers, improved brand image, boosted sales and conversion rates, increased customer loyalty, and saved time for beauty advisors in certain cases. Can this approach work for other industries? Absolutely. We can adapt it to increase customer engagement, enhance brand perception, and optimize sales and conversions. Now let's move on to the automotive industry with another example. This is a proof of concept we're developing with a well-known OEM, aiming to bring it to market within the new cars. One major challenge is harmonizing multi-format sensor data while ranking the most important settings for users. This approach could also be useful in other industries, especially where AI can predict things like maintenance needs. Since we can't physically take you inside of a car, we prepared a simple slide to explain. Flip over to the next slide, please. Thank you. As you can see on the left, you'll see that we collect a large amount of data to feed the AI algorithm. This includes past and current vehicle info, sensor readings, customer behavior, and user preferences. Using this data, the AI can predict in-car settings like temperature, fan speed, seat adjustments, and entertainment preferences. It creates personalized settings for each driver, enhancing the overall experience. While this sounds straightforward, the real challenge is managing the data from multiple sources in different formats. The level of data harmonization required is actually significant. We do classify this as customer loyalty solution because it has a potential to greatly improve customer satisfaction. For drivers, it enhances the safety by reducing the need to adjust settings while driving, allowing more focus on the road. And for comfort, having the car consistently adapt to the user's preferences makes for a smoother, more enjoyable ride, ultimately enhancing the brand's image. Now, since we have a little bit more time left, we can go through the last use case. This last case has a more technical angle, and we've been asked not to reveal the client's name. However, the solution was developed for a large bank using machine learning. One of the main drivers for this shift was from regular payment processing to instant payments, reducing the bank's fraud detection time from days to mere moments. The rise in phishing attacks also created capacity issues for fraud departments. And of course, digitalization introduced new payment methods requiring new fraud detection approaches. We built a fraud detection tool based on static and behavioral variables with cleanup conditions to reduce false positives. Static variables included things like customers' age or income, while behavioral variables included tracked transaction patterns over time. By comparing past and current behavior, the tool can spot unusual activity. While this may sound simple, we learned that data quality is critical. Poor data undermines the tool's effectiveness. Our client saw quick results, preventing 80,000 euros in fraud within the first few weeks and uncovering 10% more fraud overall. Is this applicable to other industries? Again, absolutely. While fraud patterns may differ, the framework can be customized to fit the needs of any client. Passing it over back to Brad.
Yep, thank you, Io. So that concludes the breakout session. I think as you can see, these are some very interesting use cases and they can apply to a variety of industries and companies as well. I think we have about 2 minutes before we join the main session again. So since this is a small group, happy to address any questions that we can answer here. Otherwise, we can pull them into the main session. Did anyone have a favorite use case?
I particularly like the automotive use case. I could definitely see that being very applicable to consumers all over the world, just because it's adapting the preferences and settings based on obviously the user's driving history.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that in my car. I like the LLM chatbot. Is very interesting to me because it just has such a wide variety of use cases. You can use it internally within a company, onboarding new employees to go through lots of documentation. You can connect it with procurement to go through different contracts. There's just so many things you can do with that. That's kind of the core generative AI use case that can be applied anywhere.
I hope you enjoyed our breakout sessions with many insights from use cases. We now get to the point where we go to the conclusion section, and we will start with another poll, which is prepared, with the question, which of the shown use cases are you most likely to implement in the next few years? So as you have seen, we have the game changer with Pocky, we have the excitement analyzer from Engie, we have the individual assistant from Lancôme, and we have the decision supporter of an O&M. You can now select which one was your favorite case, and yeah, you can again open the link in the chat and participate on your poll if it's not already opened. And I will summarize the results in about like 40 seconds. Yeah, until we receive the results again, I will add some further facts about AI. With ChatGPT, I think AI became suitable for everyday use. AI was well known before, but only with an easy interface, it became usable for everyone. From my perspective, or from our perspectives, this shows us that the customer journey and experience can decide about the success of such services. And another interesting fact is that big AI organizations right now are buying or want to buy power plants with nuclear energy to cover the energy demand. These are just some side facts from my side. So let's look into the results and have a look. What are the results? So 42% of the participants decided that the decision supporter with the predict user preference is the most interesting case. 24% decided for the individual assistant with the diagnostic services, 18% with the excitement analyzer, and 15% for the LLM chatbot as game changer. Also, again, thank you for participating here. I will now hand over to Cecilia, which will sum up all our insights we have generated in our today's webinar.
Thank you. So before we go to our Q&A, I just want to step through some of the things that we've learned today. Because before, when I talked about the feasibility, I mentioned that this really is all about business value. And today's webinar is focusing on this customer centricity. So I just want to step through some of the things we might have learned. So with our chatbot, for example, we talked about increased interaction and engagement with fans. That was really around attracting more customers. So that is a real business value use case. And then as an American, I'm excited to see AI helping Europeans really engage thoughtfully on the real football. So the second area with NG, we talked about customer satisfaction. This was really around dealing with high volumes of structured and unstructured data to draw the insights out about customers. So in other words, when you ask the customers a question and they give you an answer, you actually know, you can actually be conscious of all of the things that you have learned as a result of their response. Third, with L'Oreal, we talked about personalized recommendations. Now, many of you use Amazon and you're used to the fact that you get recommendation out of retailers all the time. But Amazon is only looking at what you bought, and their algorithm is showing you what other people that bought that thing also bought. Helpful, very helpful, because lots of times they get it right. But L'Oreal took it a step further. They're looking at you, your individual profile, your specific needs, and they're making recommendations for you based on all of their science and understanding of their product and how that directly relates to you. So much more personalized recommendations. Personalized recommendations that work lead to more sales, and all of those wonderful examples. If you got to the OEM, the car OEM use case, we talked a lot about driving experience, personalizing and improving that experience for the individual driver, which leads you to things like increased customer loyalty. And then finally, if you've managed to get to that last use case, I know not everyone may have, the one that talked about fraud detection. When you detect fraud, that it automatically drops to your bottom line in terms of savings. So we have improved experiences, new customers, improved sales, increased savings. All of this leads to increased business value. And so AI really can be a tool, not just to focus on the thrill of the new technology, but really to transform and to drive attention, understanding, and excitement that leads to value for your business. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Nico, to lead us through questions.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Now we are in the Q&A session. So if you want, you can also send us messages afterwards, but we will now have the opportunity to answer your questions. We will collect them from the main chat in the webinar and also from the breakout session. Please consider that we are only answering like the business or strategic related questions here, but we will tackle all questions and answer them after the webinar and send them to you. So now's the possibility to ask you questions.
So Nico, you have one in the chat that seems technical, but let me just address that one. The question on whether or not there was a specific LLM used for the chatbot could be, right? Let me bring the business perspective around this without answering that directly. The technology that you use, thankfully, it is to buy at this point, the back end, right? Because there are lots of different LLMs that are built out there. No need for enterprises to build their own, train their own, et cetera. Your choice of LLM really needs to depend upon your use case. So someone on the line may actually know the technical answer around which LLM, but that does not necessarily mean that's the recommended one that you should use for your use case. So it is very important to look and understand the limitations, the benefits of the LLM itself, the training data that it is, the model, the flexibility from an API to connect in with your other technology to actually make the best decision for your organization.
Yeah, that's right. And in our example or use case, we used ChatGPT as the LLM technology, but as Cecilia mentioned, it depends on every use case. Yes. Any other questions?
Then maybe I want to put a question.
Yes.
We talked about different use cases today, and we tried to select the ones that are most relevant across different industry sectors, as we were saying, and from different parts of the value chain. Obviously, there are many more, and we would be so interested to hear from you if you feel there's anything you would want to share that you would find particularly useful for your organization that you have already implemented or are looking into. Please share, because this is an open discussion. We would be very interested to hear your opinions on that. Anyone? Okay, there's one comment in the chat. No, it's a question, actually.
Yep. Covered. The question says, how can you determine if a project should use regular algorithm or AI? That's the first question.
Mm-hmm. So when I look at that question, it's a great one. When I do strategy work with my clients, often I try to make sure that the business users don't care. Their job isn't to understand the technology. Their job is to really understand what the business goal and objective is. And then it's the technology team's responsibility to bring to bear the rest of what's needed. So as I mentioned before, sometimes it is a need for a machine learning type of thing. You would need that if the data sets continue to change and you need the knowledge to be updated, then you would use a machine learning. It might just be reporting that you need. Generative AI comes in place when you need it to synthesize, create, engage in a natural language manner with the algorithms, et cetera. So you would want to do that. So really, I would encourage you to focus on what's the business objective. You mentioned that You easily could have done the personalization without the use of AI. The idea behind why you would use AI is likely the complexity. You can personalize things if you say there's 3 choices of colors, there's 3 choices of seats. There's a very limited choice. You can actually do that. In this OEM example, the temperature that you want your AC to be on is and where the mirror should be. It isn't just about selecting the options for your car. It was really, how do I take all of these different variables based on me, the kinds of things that I'm doing, and create a unique profile? So it actually generated a very tailored profile for that user that was slightly different for every single user. That's how you know that it needs to be a bit of AI. But I would encourage, it's what is the business use case first, and let the technology follow. More often than not, there will be a mix of technology that is used and not just one particular AI technology. Because as Nico mentioned, AI has been around for a long time, like at least 50 years. It has been in existence. Generative AI is the new thing that has captured everyone's attention in the past couple of years, but all of it really does work together to deliver the solutions that we're talking about.
All right. Okay, there's a a thumb up. So I think you covered all of the 3 questions. I have another question from the chat. Do you also have realized specific use cases for the insurance sector? Yes, we have. But Uta, do you want to mention something, or I can also jump in?
Sure, Nico, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, we have some use cases, which of course are not shown in this session, but we can get in touch and we can show them to you. Just for one hint, we have, for example, one part where we have a prediction for some specific insurance topics. You can get in touch with us and we will show you the use
I can
case.
share a couple if you want. If we
And also
that.
Cecilia has a lot of.
Yeah.
We can all share. Yeah.
So there's things like claims processing is a big one to smooth that process, which very much mirrors the L'Oreal example in terms of the technology, taking all the bits and pieces of information and running through processes and recommendations. Fraud detection is a big use case in insurance. And then there are personalized policies and claims. So a number of those that are customer facing. And then if you do things like property and casualty, just got to mention the sustainability piece. A lot of the algorithms that they're using for actuary models to estimate claims aren't really helpful anymore because climate change is dramatically changing things, and they are typically used to assessing old data. Well, with generative AI, they can actually create synthetic data that runs lots of simulations to better predict and assess the risk that's associated with the claims going forward. So those are just a few use cases.
Right. We have another question, like 3 questions again. Based on the mind-blowing speed of AI development in the last 2 years, what recommendations can you provide to clients for the adaptation of this existing technology for existing customer journeys approach?
So Uta, do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, again, and then please, Cecilia, feel free to jump in. I think what we said earlier is that it's always very important to start from the business purpose first. So we would always recommend that you in your specific business make sure that you have a clear understanding what the business need is, and start with that and not with the technology first. Again, also we said we really in our strategic work like to focus on saying how can you make your organization more customer centric. So maybe not even start with existing customer journeys, but really think what could be most beneficial from a customer experience, independent of what current processes might exist in your organization. So first thing to take away, start with the client in mind. Second, think of your business purpose and what your actual objective is in applying AI as a technology. And third, maybe, obviously, there's an entire framework that Cecilia was describing earlier. Have that in mind. And the technology itself is actually then the enabler in our experience and opinion that should follow the steps that we've described before. That would be my input on that. Cecilia, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, the thing that I would add is to think about the data, right? Because when we're thinking about AI, it really is all about data. And so thinking about that as an asset. What data do I have that I'm underutilizing? What data could I gather? What data could I generate that will actually transform the way I do business? We talked about having unstructured data. You might have emails that come in. Boy, there's a lot of insights in that unstructured data, the social media data that comes in, just the customer ordering data. There's a lot of information that you probably have around your organization that you're underutilizing. And so really taking a step back and thinking through, how can I draw more insights, assess it faster, combine it with other data sources, et cetera, to create as much insight and value as I can, is the other element that I would add as you're thinking through those customer experiences as well.
I think that's an excellent insight, Cecilia. If I can add a nuance from a UK perspective, from my experience with CIOs and CTOs, I think the investment in data lifecycle management is becoming more important, as you said, because if you haven't got that up to scratch, then AI is almost a namesake. You can't do good AI without good data. So the question is, for many of our clients, the question is, should I wait until I've set my house in order before I even do anything? And typically what we say to our clients is, no, generative AI might be difficult, and by all means use all the qualification criteria that Cecilia kind of mentioned right at the start of this webinar. But there's also a lot of AI that you could adopt through your existing systems of record and enterprise systems. So you've got massive amounts of data curated within your CRM systems, your ERP systems, and a lot of the AI risk is still with those platform vendors. So use the AI features that they have already set out in the market before you decide to create your own LLM and whatnot. So that's your sort of, here's my hack to kind of get some of that AI goodness whilst I get my house in order and get my data in order so that I can go to more advanced use cases. That's the nuance I'm seeing in the UK market specifically. Hope that helps.
That's great input, Shakti, and I think that that's true more broadly. You cannot wait and do a big bang. You have to do the incremental. You clean up the piece that you can, use the tools that are out there, and continue to build. You cannot even worry about the fact that whatever tool you use might change later. It will. It will always change. So it's just time to jump in.
And it helps with the preparedness when it comes to infrastructure and dealing with AI risk as well. So when you're kind of experimenting with these AI functionality through your existing platforms, the infrastructure and all of the risk is almost with the platform vendor, and you're kind of experimenting in a safe space before you kind of do your full-blown AI program of works. So it's a great way to kind of test and see if your use cases can scale before you invest more broadly in them. So that's a great way to trying out.
Thank you, Shakti. These are very nice or very interesting insights from your side. Thank you. I have another question in the chat. So how could new business models look like with the help of AI?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered that in the last one. The new business models, I think one of the things that we have to understand is it will be faster.
Yeah.
It will be information based. And just as though, I'll go back to the Amazon example, people put information into Amazon because they expect to get a value coming back. with AI, it's going to be the same thing. The data becomes really valuable, and we need to make sure that you're thinking about business models that work in both directions. That if you learn something about your customers or clients, how you use it needs to be of something that creates more value back to them in order for them to continue to participate in the give and take of the data exchange. What it will look like, it's hard to tell, but it definitely will be more data intensive and faster.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Cece. I was going to say the same, maybe to add on that, what we're seeing in many industries currently that we are consulting for is obviously that some, our front runners are trying to change their business models to from becoming a traditional product or service provider into a data-driven company, or to becoming a data company. And that is exactly what Cecilia was saying before, right? In the past, you were selling a car or you were selling an insurance policy, and now you realize, obviously, you have so much data that, as we were saying earlier, needs to be, structured, obviously, and used and put into good use for customers. But the actual product might not be what it used to be in the past, but could be something that is based on the data that you generate, and not only the car or the insurance policy. So we're seeing these trends and tendencies currently in many industries, especially with those front runners. Obviously, there are some more traditional, and you'd always have a certain cycle of adaptation as usual, but we can see industries shifting, and that's exactly how Cecilia was describing it earlier. However, and maybe that pays into the next part of the question, Nico,
Right.
there is international law and international regulations, and we're very much aware of that. And we feel currently, and maybe you have other thoughts on that, it's still very heterogeneous, right? I mean, we see some zones like, as Cecilia was saying earlier, there's EU regulation, there's obviously different regulation in the US or in the UK. We are fully aware that this is an obstacle for globally acting players, because there is no standardized global international law at the moment to have a unified basis for a business model. We're aware of that. There are different levels and different, obviously, also maybe intentions behind AI regulation. That is an issue if you want to have more homogeneity across your different entities and regions you operate in. And that is a certain limit. But obviously, it's also, in our opinion, as Cecilia was put it, with regards to ethics, necessary to have some kind of standard regulation. But currently, it's very much either country-based, or maybe with a certain number of countries like the EU. So there is no one global approach at the moment, as far as I can see.
And what's really interesting in the US, right? We technically don't have a regulation yet. There's a guidance from the White House, but the US actually tends to do our technology adoption a little bit differently than Europe. Europe tends to put the regulations in place really early and try to encourage people to play within those guardrails. The US is more of the wild west. You try it out until you get sued, right? And then you try to have the regulations catch up to the outcry from those who've filed lawsuits. So what you find is there's a little bit more experimentation that happens in the US, but it does mean companies have to be much more careful. You have to really this idea around ethical use of AI becomes critically important in a US market where there aren't as many guide rails. And you can do so many more things and get yourself in so much more trouble. And so I think you definitely see a lot of difference, but maybe that means that in the US we'll also develop some more best practices and guidelines on ethical use faster, because we don't have the guardrails.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. All right. I think we're good. Thank you very much, all of you, for the exciting session here with the breakout sessions. Was very, very great. We hope you have enjoyed the session, and we are excited to contact us for more information. Thank you very much.